Caring for aging parents or other loved ones while working, raising children, and trying to live your own life? Wondering how to find the time for your personal health and happiness? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Happy, Healthy Caregiver Podcast, the show where real family caregivers share how to be happy and healthy while caring for others. Now, here's your host, family caregiver and certified caregiving consultant, Elizabeth Miller.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Happy, Healthy Caregiver Podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome. This is a podcast produced bi-weekly to help family caregivers integrate self-care and caregiving into their lives. Each episode has an accompanying show notes page, so if you would like more details about the topics, products, and resources we speak about, you will find the show notes by going on the website, happyhealthycaregiver.com, and underneath the podcast menu, click the image for today's show. Join the Happy Healthy Caregiver email list to stay up to date on all the podcast happenings. Every Tuesday, you'll get the weekly roundup, which includes tips under the pillars of happy, healthy, and caregiving. Plus, upcoming events, special offers, and more. Visit bit.ly/HHC eNews. Before we get into today's Caregiver Spotlight episode, I want to shine the light on our episode sponsor, Rare Patient Voice. Do you want to earn cash in exchange for your opinion? Researchers recognize that the true disease experts are those living with the condition and their family caregivers. Rare Patient Voice, or RPV, helps connect researchers with patients and family caregivers for over 700 diseases and conditions. For patients and caregivers, RPV provides the opportunity to voice their opinions to improve medical products and services while earning cash rewards. Rare Patient Voice, helping patients and caregivers share their voices. If you're interested, join the RPV panel at rarepatientvoice.com/happy healthy caregiver. Joe Vasquez and his wife Laura live in Texas and have been married over 11 years. In February 2021, Laura suffered a traumatic and anoxic brain injury. With Laura's freak garden accident, life as they knew it changed. Joe had to find his way as a family caregiver with zero care experience. In this episode, Joe shares his story, and we discuss marital commitment, mental health therapy, FMLA benefits, and the role TikTok has played in his caregiving journey. I'm definitely out of podcast practice and forgot to share today's Caregiver Jar quote with Joe during our chat, so I'm sharing it with you now. Today's Caregiver Jar says, "It's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up." And that's a quote from Vince Lombardi. A very fitting quote for today's show with Joe Vasquez. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver Podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I feel like, with people I've met through social media, particularly that do video content, I feel like there's like this, I already know you, but we've never sat down and chatted before. So this is extra special.
Yeah, no, it's like, because I follow all your content, and of course that's pretty much how I'm known, is from TikTok. So
from TikTok. Exactly. Yeah. We're definitely going to dive into that, but I wanted to chat with you about caregiving. I know, I share my story is different than yours. Mine was like a mudslide where I kind of saw it coming, but your story with your wife, Laura, was not like that. So tell us a little bit about what happened that made you, have become a family caregiver. I know that was on your bucket list.
Oh yeah. No, she had an accident, February 28th of 2021. It was weird. We had this routine where I went to the gym. She stayed home, just did mess with her plants out back. And I came home and she was unconscious in the yard. And there's a video, of course, I put it on TikTok. Her sister couldn't get in. And it was really weird for her sister not to get in. The dogs weren't barking, weren't doing anything. So we get back there. Her sister calls me from the gym. I come home and she's unconscious with a tomato cage laying next to her. Pick her up, her eye is almost bulging out. It's all swollen. And she's acting really, the best word is drunk. I hate to say
So those little cages that go around the tomatoes,
yeah.
That's what, yes.
Yeah.
And she was outside.
She was outside. It was a cold February day. She was outside, laying next to it, picked her up, and she was just acting really weird, and she couldn't get up. So we called the paramedics. They got there. They didn't know what was wrong with her. They just thought maybe she fell, hit her head. And it wasn't until we got to the hospital they did a CT scan. As a matter of fact, I just posted it on TikTok because I found it. The tomato kid, she somehow fell on it and it cut all the way through her skull. And then she pulled it out, and we had no idea what happened because the dogs cleaned up all the mess and then stood guard over her. So until I got home, and that kind of started the path. They didn't think she was going to make it through the week. They actually I came up behind the doctor when they were talking about it in the ICU, and they were like writing her off already because they were waiting. They said they were saying her brain was going to swell and that was going to be the end of it. And her brain never swelled because sadly she was in hyperthermia from being out in the cold, and her body went hyperthermic. So her body pretty much shut down before it could swell, which saved her in a sense. So
it's a very peculiar accident and must have been such an emotionally charged scene to come into and a mystery to kind of figure out what happened.
Yeah. And then they wouldn't let me see her for the first day. Well, actually, no, they weren't going to let me see her, but they didn't think she was going to make it. So I could see her if I had somebody present with me, because they had to clear you. That's what they do in any accident where the spouse is the first one on the scene and he's the last one to see them. They have to clear you of any kind of involvement.
Oh, you're like a suspect.
Yeah. I mean, you hate to say it, but they had to look at all the evidence and they were like, there's nothing there's no way you could have done this. So
I'm sure if there is foul plays in some scenario, they want that to happen, but how horrible for that to happen in your situation.
Yeah. And I can't blame them because when we called the paramedics, it's like, they're never going to believe this. So I understood like even the paramedics kind of told me, hey, you probably won't be able to see her, just because of the nature of it. And I have a friend who's in the EMP and they say that's pretty standard. So, but they did let me see her with a guard, not a guard, but like a nurse had to be present. So,
Wow, Joe, yeah. That's a lot. And I know you do share quite a bit on TikTok, but in 3-minute segments. And so to be able to kind of share your story beyond that, and people can kind of go and get the visuals that you've put out there for that. What was life like for you and Laura before the accident?
That's what's really complicated about my story, and really I think is a part of caregiving that, because like, to be honest, our marriage wasn't in a good spot. Like, we were just kind of coming and going. How
long were you married?
11 years.
11 years at that point. Yeah.
And it was funny. Her main beef with me is like, she wanted me to help more around the house, but she hated everything I did. So she was a perfectionist, and she very OCD how she had things done. And so we were kind of going back and forth, and she was really stressed at work. She hated her job. But she didn't want to leave because she was she was a kennel manager at a veterinarian. So she didn't want to leave her animals or her clients, but it was just killing her from the inside, and she wouldn't listen to me. So we weren't arguing more than regular, but we were just kind of apart, and we were kind of, we had bought up divorce because we were kind of drifting that way. So we were kind of in our separate worlds, and then this happened, and I had to learn to put all that to rest. You have to learn to get past that. You have to learn because when you have a TBI, like my wife's injury, it's so changing of their personality. Like someone said, a TBI tends to bring out who they really are. And luckily with my wife, it bought back all the sweetness I remembered, like of her being that. Like some people they just get enraged, and she never had that. She never got angry. She was upset at her situation, but it's so weird because she has no short-term memory. Like, I could tell her I'm doing this and she'll forget 10 minutes later. So, and she's never recovered that. So it's like this ongoing thing. So I'm sorry, I ramble. So
I mean, we know the Dory from Finding Nemo, I think, kind of brought that short-term memery thing. But that's hard as a caregiver to just, not be correcting and be like, I've already told you that. I've already.
Yeah. But I've gotten that one thing. I'm proud of myself for not getting upset with her ever when she wants stuff repeated or doesn't know. But
how did you get there? Is it just part of your DNA, or is it
a lot of therapy? a lot of therapy. Luckily, I I never had a problem I know as a man, there's always been that stigma about mental health and but going to counselors. But I actually like some of my best memories are of my high school counselor, and she was actually at my first wedding years ago. So I was always up for counseling. It was like one of the first things that I did. And I actually had to change counselors because I had a gentleman, and him and I just weren't meshing. And so I was always I always knew to take care of my own mental health, because you can't take care of someone if you're not right in the mind, I think. And
I mean, you've got to be showing up,
you got to I had to put our issues, the way I always put it, I think I put it on some TikToks, is that the Laura that I was having issues with died in the yard. So that I couldn't hold I couldn't hold that against her anymore, because that was gone. It was totally not a part of our life anymore.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, you just can't drop that. There was a lot of baggage there. So that took some time. And this, just the ups and downs, her sodium is uncontrollable. And when it first happened, it was bad. Like, she would spike, and they would keep her she has to, whenever her sodium spikes, she has to go back in and get fluids, and then it comes down gradually. There's no other way around it. And so that was like for the first year she was in and out. And then for almost the whole first year, they were basically the whole first year of her recovery, they had me prepared for her to die, because she wouldn't stabilize. She'd go into rehab, she'd get better, then she'd become septic, she'd go into renal failure. It was over and over and over. Then she got to Baylor, and she started having aspiration pneumonia. A lot. She was in the ICU 5 times between September and October, and right when COVID was peaking again. And so it was just, the whole first year was just insane. And I had support. I had her stepsister for a while, but then nothing ever stuck around. So it's just, that's a lot. That's one thing that I also had to deal with. I think
people disappointing you.
Yeah, disappointing. After a while, everyone's going to mourn because of this horrible incident. Basically they've written her off because she's gone to them. And so, even people at my job were you're a year later, you're still dealing with that. I'm yeah, still kind of going through that. So
yeah, it's a chronic, ongoing condition.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting educated. You threw out a bunch of terms that I know I didn't know as a caregiver. Who is your person that was walking you through this? Were you doing on your own? Did you? I mean,
I had a lot.
Yeah.
There was no one. I wouldn't say walking me through. I kind of stumbled through everything the first year. Her stepsister, who's a nurse, she was along for a while, and she knew a lot of terms. I didn't really deal with that. My main goal was just getting her stable, for the first year. And so I didn't actually start to learn the terms and get into all the breaking down of her actual symptoms until actually this year, when she got a little stable, and I started learning about the neurogenic bladder and all this other stuff, and it's crazy. So
yeah, you get a friend of mine says you get your master's in caregiving. That's basically you're continuing to get it. It's
always learning.
Yeah, and I know you wouldn't advise a traumatic brain injury to be the recipe to save a marriage, but I do think that is an interesting way that you have dealt with that.
Yeah.
To say that that version of her died, you're processing it, and yet still a version of her is showing up. She's not completely a different personality.
No, the sweetest. It really brought out she's always a very sweet, caring woman, but she was a single mom for until I showed up. For the first 11 years, she was always had this stern kind of front.
She does it herself. Yeah,
does it herself.
Yeah.
And so with that gone, and the stress of that gone, the humor and the compassion, and she would just she'll grab my hand and she'll just rub it out of the blue. That kind of stuff she didn't usually do. Came back, and you hate it because you hated for an injury to bring her to that. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, this is a woman I remember.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, there's unexpected gifts for sure.
Yeah.
In that. Where is Laura now?
She's in the bedroom sleeping.
So she came home at some point. Like, when did she come back to the house?
After almost 2 years, she came home December 3rd. So
wow.
It's
fresh.
It's been a month today. And matter of fact, I just posted a video of the dog's just continuing to love on her like the whole time she's been home.
Aww.
So
well, and she probably loves that too.
Oh my God. It's like she goes right back into what she knows. She'll pet the dogs, and she wants to examine them and look at their paws and their teeth. So that's the cute part. They'll be laying down with her. She'll be like looking at their teeth, and you need to get your nails clipped. Yeah.
What do you, I mean, how are you adjusting, I guess, to this new normal?
I've actually, I have a new therapist. I go there. I love the whole taking care of her, getting, that part is actually good. The thing is that there always seems to be something new. Like, I think I posted in one of my latest TikToks, we have to get a biopsy because I think she has bladder cancer. So there's just like, whenever we get something down and I'm feeling good, that like, I got this, I get something else that comes along. But I've really learned to embrace it. I mean, it's funny. Yeah, it's hard, but it's funny. But it's like I was never. We joke about it, like when I have to change her and dress her. I'm like, yeah, you never thought I'd be doing this. She's like, no. She's like, so. I've really learned.
You got to keep a sense of humor. I mean, it's just it's too much. Otherwise, I'd been there too, not to this extent, but to like, okay, higher power, God, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what I feel like you've given me this lesson before. Like, am I not getting? Like, why you keep giving me more stuff? Like, I'm good. Move on.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just I don't know. I just really. It makes me feel good, and I feel like I can, I feel like I'm actually, for the first time in my life, I always kind of went through life as just me dealing with me. Never, even when my first marriage, we were our own people, and that's why it kind of went into work. And then with this one, Laura and I were already established. We already had our own synchronicities and stuff, and we were just kind of a good team. But I've really embraced running the show, especially since her coming home. I really like that because I don't have to get clearance from doctors. I can just do it.
Yeah.
So
you have some freedom, and it's on your terms and your.
Well, that comes with a cost too. Like we have to get a sedation order or a sedation. Since she's on so many medicines, they have to get her approved to get sedated for the biopsy. Mm-hmm. And her doctor, she's still an outpatient at Pate, but that doctor won't approve it because he doesn't want to. So a lot of doctors, that he's very skittish about any. He's always been that way. So, but she needs her
do they have solutions, or do they just not approve stuff?
He just doesn't feel comfortable approving it.
Yeah.
Like I had FMLA paperwork, and I had to walk him through how to do it. So
is that how you're managing this? Is through FMLA right now, which is Family Medical Leave Act. If anyone doesn't know what that stands for,
Family Medical Leave Act. I have a really good job. I know I said I couldn't talk, but I don't really talk about my job much. But I have, like, you can see I have 25 years of government service, so I have some.
You have good benefits.
Good benefits. That's the really good thing. I was able to switch insurances to get her on an insurance that accepted Pate. Pate is a neurological rehabilitation center, and they're amazing. There's a couple others. NCS was one, I think it is, but Pate's really good.
And you're in Texas area.
In Texas, yeah. And Pate is amazing, but only certain insurances cover them because the way it works. Okay, what she does when she was inpatient, she went to Pate rehab all day, and then she went to a group home where she lived with everybody who had a similar injury. Excuse me. Well, the Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal considered they were okay with the rehab part at the center, but going to a home was considered assisted living, which they thought was a choice. And I was like, no. So I had to switch to Aetna, which is considered an all inpatient. So
Good. Well, I'm glad that you work at an employer that's got some availability
yes.
and flexibility for you to take that. How long will you be able to do FMLA for?
This is actually my second round. So I have
Oh, see, I didn't know you could do that.
yeah, you can always re-up every year. So this is my second round. I think
Good.
I get 480 hours every time. So I think I'm down to 200 again.
Do you take it like all at once or do you kind of
No,
spread it
no.
out?
I
Okay.
spent mine. It all depends on how you get it. This is the key. Mine is I had basically mine set up. I can take a day whenever I want or need.
Okay,
There's
good.
certain FMLAs where you have block FMLA where you can only take from this to this. Uh, um, like some people can only take 2 days a month. I am anytime I want for as long as I need. And sometimes that's good too, because when it was first starting, there were some days where it's just I couldn't work. Even when I'm at work, I feel bad because I'm usually dealing with something for her. So, but
I mean, that's this reality. Like you're her
yeah,
person, you're her primary
yeah,
caregiver. When you're on FMLA, you get reduced pay. Is that right?
that's
Okay,
another great thing about yeah. Usually you get reduced pay, but the great thing about where I work is that I can just use leave for it. Like it'll count
okay,
as FMLA, but I can just use my leave instead of not getting paid. So, but eventually, if I burn through all that, it would be FMLA leave without pay. But
gotcha.
yeah, so
And
I'm
then you're
very fortunate.
guaranteed your position as
Yeah,
kind of why that's in place.
basically they give us FMLA, so they like the minute it happened, they were trying to get me on it. They're like, you need this because you're going to be out. So, and
Well, I'm grateful that
it's
that's available. It's still
yes,
stressful. I mean, even though your employer is kind and has all of that, like I know I took a lot of time when I needed to with my parents, and it's still hard. You're still making sure that
oh
someone,
yeah, I
um,
missed I missed almost all of 2021.
yeah,
Like I was there was a joke like I was actually like I showed up for a one in June. I showed up for 1 day of the whole month, and it wasn't what I planned. It's like I was messing with a coworker. I actually like being at work because it's an escape. It's
yeah,
I hate
you
to
know how to do it. You know
I
how
know
to
how
do
to do it.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can mess around. I can talk. Um, it's just something I don't have to deal with. Not that I'm upset with dealing with my wife, but it's not all encompassing. I'm not, you know, it's just a break, I guess. I hate to say it that way, but
Yeah.
it's, I mean,
No,
it is just me. So
I think most caregivers, working caregivers, would agree with you. Like
yeah.
it's
So
that's I appreciate too, Joe, that you talk about like mental health and being a man and embracing mental health. Why do you think more people don't do that? Why do you think more?
there is still a stigma that is just expected for the man. And I've encountered this throughout the whole like the medical like journey. Like the one thing I've gotten a lot that I wanted to switch is I always get complimented for still being around. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like most men just split. And I'm like, and I've learned this is through and through and through. Like every week, every month we have a family conference at Pate, and what they use they're like we're so thankful you're still with Laura. And I'm like, this is really an issue. They're like, yeah, most marriages just stop, because they want me to put her in a home because she needs constant nursing. But so we tried that route, and one almost killed her. Well, they both almost killed her. One was horrible. I actually had called the HHS on them, and she just wasn't comfortable. It wasn't her house, and I couldn't do that to her. So I kind of made a determination that I'm going to find a way to make it happen. So, but it's just expected that the men will move on. I think that's just my own
Yeah,
impression, and it's just what it's almost expected. And I'm like, I can't do that because there's not just because there's no one else, but because this is my wife.
right.
She deserves. She she didn't ask for this to happen. So why am I going to leave her just because
Yeah.
I'm inconvenienced? So
I think this is what the definition of commitment looks like.
yeah, yeah, it's hard.
So
I mean, I'm not gonna. It's hard as hell. It's lonely. I do get crazy because you are missing. There is a certain aspect of the relationship that's gone. I am the caregiver now, not the husband. And
mm,
there, you don't. you try not to think about it. And this is part of my therapy is at one point I'm going to have to come to terms with that. But right now,
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
I'm not worried. So
like primarily with like the intimacy part of it and that level.
Yeah. You try not to think about it because you think it's petty, but it's not. It's
important in any marriage.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's something I'll look forward to. Something I'll deal with down the line.
Another bridge, yeah.
Yeah, another bridge I'll cross when I get to it. So that's just something that.
Well, thank goodness you're in therapy. I think I know that you attribute that to like a lot of where you are. So I think, kind of with caregiver support and with therapy, like people usually wait until there's a crisis until they embrace it. And if you can kind of be proactive about it, and get something set up, that would be amazing.
Yeah. She'll hate me for not mentioning her. My sister has also been a great part. Matter of fact, there was one point in last June where I was in this really bad spot with it all. And my sister lives in Florida, but she would call me and we actually ended up we love Marvel stuff. So we'd watch that together. So she is a social worker. So it's just like having another counselor. But I don't suggest using family because there's always going to be a bias. She's my big sister. So,
sure.
But she would call me and we would watch Loki together because she knew it helped me because we would do FaceTime watching it because she knew I needed somebody there. So she would fly. She flies in for most Marvel movies when we go see them.
Yay, sister.
Yeah, Heather, she's really good. And she was a bartender. She's going back to being a social worker though. So
yeah, I mean, there are things that families can that is supporting you and what that looks like. It's not necessarily hands-on caregiving support, but definitely I would say she's your self-care cheerleader or your self-care bully, depending on how you look at it.
She knows, she knows all the darkness and everything I've been through, and she doesn't pull punches with me. So she does. It's great advice. It's good sisterly advice, older sister, and it's also professionally trained.
Yeah.
So it's great. As much bias as she has, she's still pretty.
You could pick up the phone and she's gonna.
Yeah, she's still pretty objective and honest with me about it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I'm glad that you have that. How tell us about the TikTok journey. How has that helped you with all of this?
That is the craziest thing. So how I started this, it started with Facebook updates that I would just type out on the computer because everybody's calling, wanting to know. So I just started doing Facebook updates. Then I got the camera, and then I started doing video updates. And actually, if you go on Facebook, I've made it public. She has a whole album called Laura's Journey. All my updates, video updates, everything should be in that album. And it starts around April. I start doing videos, and then it just steadily grows. And I get the light, I get the microphone.
Is it on your Facebook account?
Yeah, on my Facebook. Okay. Yeah. You won't.
Okay.
But you should. Yeah, there's two things that are public. One of them's that album, and the other one's our dogs.
Interesting.
And, so I started doing that, and it became more of a way just for me to deal with things because I was getting it out. And then after a while, then I had a TikTok account because people would send me videos. I never did anything. So then I branched out to TikTok. Nothing was going on. And then I made a video. With TikTok, it's all about doing that whole getting in on the TikTok trend. And they had this really weird trend. And since I'm a big Marvel fan, it was something for Moon Knight. And it was you're supposed to show a picture of what you were like 4 years ago or something, then morphed to what you're doing now. And I did a video of me sitting watching TV, and then I showed a picture. I have video of my wife you've seen it, of her being escorted out.
Yeah.
And then it morphs back, and it was 20 seconds. And I started getting all these hits, and people what happened? What happened? What happened? And so then I made a video of the incident, explaining the incident, and it was horrible. It was my first one. I was in a hurry to do it, but it got 12 million views. And then I remade the video, tried to clean it up. That got 8 million views. And then from there, everything just kind of blew up. Everything, because I'd already been posting her recovery videos, but everyone was ignoring those. Then I get that viral stuff, and everything within this month.
They think that it's already it's just started happening.
Yeah.
And you're kind of reliving it in a way, but it helps process it maybe.
Yeah. And it got the story out, and it got me pointed. I have like 3 or 4 really close people, like people. Somebody sent me a Han Solo statue. I have another gift coming today. I have like 3 or 4 good contacts from there. I mean, I know it says I have like 65,000 followers, but that's all smoke and mirrors on TikTok.
Yeah.
But it's just like,
I have not gone viral.
What'll happen? Well, you'll get one. It'll eventually happen, and you'll blow up, and then everything, and you'll be like, everyone gets their TikTok moment. And then and it is a dangerous thing, because when you're alone so much like me, and you get this attention because you think, oh, people are listening, and then you want to expand on it, it goes away just as quick as it comes. Because you go through my scroll, you'll see this, you can see the section where I blew up, and it's just all hundreds of thousands of millions of views, and then it just drops right off again. And that's just part of it. And I think a lot of what I picked up from that were the healthcare community, like nurses, doctors, I'm glad, which was my ultimate goal, because I'm not, and long-term
care community,
long-term care, long-term sufferers, long-term illness. I would consider her a friend. She's a long-term illness. And I take a lot of her name's Amanda. I take a lot of the way she deals with doctors. I love. She knows, she's aware of everything going on with her. I won't really get into it, and she knows, and she doesn't.
And she's on TikTok.
Yeah, she's not. It's Amanda. I don't know. Oh, she's gonna kill me, but it's Amanda or something.
Yeah. Well, you can send me the link later, I can add it to the show notes page.
She has a tumor in her brain, and it causes her eye, and she's had it before, but she's very brilliant, and she knows everything about her own injury and the medicines that affect her or not, and she's very good advocate for not taking crap and knowing what, getting the care you deserve. So I usually I'll look at her, watch her videos, and kind of get inspired to not, because they'll
pumps you up.
Yeah, they'll write you off, because you really have to fight for them to do some things. Because they're very I was getting in an argument about Laura's biopsy. I'm like, why can't you guys just find me someone to approve this? I go, I have to go out and I have to create this whole. I had to get her a doctor anyways. I go, but you know what's wrong. You're in a hospital. Can you just get a cardiologist? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so
yeah, it's more tasks for you. It's like, why does it have to be so hard?
Everything is a fight. That's one thing I tell is any tip. There's everything. They're going to fight you every inch of the way. I've never had anything without some kind of complication.
Well, you said your goal was kind of maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but educate this healthcare community in a way, because this puts a face. Makes it real for people who are in a very clinical environment to get as snapshots.
And I think that's and that's where you get the long-term sufferers illness. I hate to say, but a lot of them, because if you get on their TikTok, they're not there to make money and be famous. They want their message out, which I think is ultimately what I was doing. Is this, you just want people to know, hey, we're still here. This, everything's not peachy keen. And then, I think that's where my TikTok came from. I felt good doing it. And
hopefully, I'm hoping that people are not judgmental and kind. Kindness is free, people. Sprinkle it around like confetti. It's not. But what a interesting way. Have you found anybody like you, a man caring for a wife with a brain injury? No, you're still looking. Joe needs somebody who's exactly like him, like your version of Caregiver Bumble or something.
I found a woman, I think it was Australia, whose husband was shot in the head, almost in the same area of my wife's accident, and has the same injuries, but has recovered differently than my wife. And I've tried to contact her, but they haven't really responded to me. But a lot of their journey is very similar from what I saw. But a gunshot wound is different, because they can go in and they can remove all the tissue and stuff like that. But another part of my wife's part, that kind of the part that I get upset about it myself, is that because I went to the gym, and when my wife had the accident, they determined she had a traumatic brain injury and what's called I'm going to do it wrong. Anoxic brain injury.
I know somebody who has and cares for her son with an anoxic brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she has some permanent brain damage because I was.
Is that what that means? Anoxic? I don't even really.
Yeah, your brain was starved of oxygen, so portions of it died. Like some of her gray matter, like they did a thing, and some of her brain size shrank. So, and that's a lot hard. Like her family doesn't really come around because it's hard for them to. She's still talkative, she's still all that, but there is I hate to say it, it's almost like a childlike way she approaches all conversations. Nothing like bad, but she's very. It's a horrible way to say it, but she has very like childlike moments. So, yeah. And it's hard for her mom to see. So,
it's hard. I think that's sometimes people do in some ways disappoint us because they can't show up. Like it's just like it's.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get her daughter back down here. Her daughter's in Arkansas, but her daughter told me I can't handle seeing my mom that way, and I kind of gave her a pass for a while. But now,
and then you're but make it about like Joe needs help, y'all. Like if you're listening to this, like Joe needs help. Like maybe it's many hands make light work. So whatever you can offer, even if you can't come and see Laura if it's too much. Like there are other ways, a DoorDash gift card, have someone mow the lawn. Offer to pay a bill or take on some of the bill pay. Like there are many things on your plate.
Well, we just had like, this is funny. Like today is a full day. Like we just had our bankruptcy hearing like right before I did this, and it was over the phone. So I actually had to like wake her up to like, hey baby, you got to swear in. Oh, so
because of caregiving, you all had to file for bankruptcy. Yeah,
because there's just so many bills. It's just like. Like that's another thing that I didn't do that I encourage people to do. Her hospitals will offer secondary insurance, but if you don't stay on them, they'll just forget all about you. And she went back and forth so much her first couple of months. I got traded off from so many different social workers that they lost track of all the paperwork for the secondary insurance, and then they just billed me. So I'm like, all right, I got it. So you got to, if you got to stay on them because, you give them, I know they're short and COVID and all this, but you got to stay on them because it doesn't make what you need any less important.
Yeah. So, it's like, something else that Joe needs help with, someone to stay on that. Yeah. Like it's too much. It's just too much for one person, to grasp. So I can appreciate that. But nothing, I know some people like on TikTok have tried to do like a GoFundMe or things like that. That wasn't something that you've attempted.
No, we did. We had one fundraiser, which actually has saved us. We did it initially. I didn't want to do it because at first I didn't want to do it. I didn't seem right to me. And one of my old Army buddies was like, no, this is how people want to help.
Well, and you're not like, putting a gun to people's, that's a bad expression, but you're not forcing people to give.
Yeah, no. And we did, we got out of all the initial debt we had. So if things would have went to plan and she would have been home by then, we would have been okay. But she kept on in the hospital and she kept on going to rehab. And so then everything I paid off, I had to run stuff up. So it just, we had to, and it was just like, so I was like, all right, I'll just do bankruptcy. And I still have a GoFundMe for her healthcare. I just kind of keep it I keep it up on the TikTok. It's just something that I put it up.
So that is a way of people listening listening want to help you. That is a way. He loves Marvel. Send him something. Yeah. Little
Marvel,
treasures.
Star Wars. Yeah. So so I feel bad because I had that big moment on TikTok and I didn't set up anything. And one of her, somebody like, you need to do that. And I did it too late. So I'm like, But
Joe, you make the best decision with the information ahead of time. You didn't have a crystal ball. How did you?
No,
It's so crazy. Well, this probably comes out after the CareWell Awards will be closed, but I hope that you're nominating yourself for they're doing up to a 5,000. Okay, good. So, and I'm going to talk that up on social, but if people are listening, I would love to see, I can't do it for you because I'm a judge. So yes, but what do you want to say like about I feel like you're kind of representing to the male caregiver population. Is there anything you want to say for the male caregivers out there? I know that's something I'm being intentional about, really trying to get more voices.
I appreciate it, and I wish there was. It's just don't quit on them. Don't. Your life's gonna stop for a while. Um, that's just how it is. Just remember why you love them. Don't walk away from them when they need you. It's the easiest, the easier thing to do is to walk away, and it's almost expected. So surprise them and stay. So that's the best I can do.
That's good. That's good. Well, I know you've got a lot just to kind of, normally we talk a lot about self-care too on the show, but I feel like you've got a lot just to kind of manage your new normal, but doesn't have to take hours or days to kind of infuse something. Where do you find your energy and what refreshes and refuels you?
I actually got a chance to escape to the movies last week. and it's like this stuff like that, just going to the movies, and like I get a chance to go out to get some lunch when she's at rehab and I'm off. So I really appreciate that. But it's funny, so I want to go to the movies, and so the movie I picked to see is The Whale. Which is
I don't even know is it good?
It's amazing, but it is the saddest movie in the world. It's Brendan Fraser's like comeback movie.
Okay.
And oh my God, it is so sad. And it's just like it was like I get out, I get to see a movie and I'm crying.
Maybe it was cathartic.
It was. Well, I had like the character is an obese LGBTQ man trying to reconnect with his daughter, and he was very upset with how his life had panned out. And I actually hit my first brother-in-law was an obese LGBTQ man and had similar issues. So we, nothing ever reconciled. And I'm pretty sure, I think my old first brother-in-law died. But there was a lot of familiarity. So it was it was a great performance, but it's like of all the movies I could have seen. Yeah. I was like, I'll go be sad. And yeah, that's my.
I'm with you though. I love to go to the movie. I love to splurge. I love to have some popcorn and get the nice comfy seats. And I like that you both have the Marvel thing together. Are there other things? I have something called a joint joy list where you make your list of joys and she's got her list of joys, and like, where do you all overlap?
It's the movies. She likes she's one of those. She loves action movies. She loves all that kind of stuff. Marvel. We love trying different kinds of foods. We haven't really been able to do that. That's one thing that's kind of sad, is that we used to like exploring restaurants and stuff, and now she can't really. Yeah, that's another thing I have to do. I have to get a handicap placard for our car. So.
And then you'll be able to kind of venture out a little
bit more,
but
she doesn't. I don't think she's just likes being home. So it's kind of hard because she goes to rehab every day, and that's where she gets all her activity. Mm-hmm. And when she's off, she just kind of she just wants to sleep.
She's tired, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the thing about TBIs is that you sleep most of the day, like all day. So it's just like because it takes so much more for their mind to work. She lost a lot of weight because someone told me she was burning 10,000 calories just to try to do normal things, and she lost a lot of mass, and it was bad for a while.
Wow.
But, yeah. So.
Well, you're in a good spot today, which is good. She's napping. Yeah. So I do this thing at the end called the lightning round, where I wrote this journal because journaling has helped me when I was caregiving, process things, writing, but I wanted to make it easier. I wrote it with caregivers in mind, but not just for caregivers. So I pulled out some prompts for you. One of them says, there's no wrong answer, by the way. It's just whatever. In what ways do you combat loneliness or isolation?
Oh my God.
Because that's social self-care. Like we need that. Yeah. We got to be around people.
Yes. As much as I hate it, I'm very much into people. I just I'll go out to, I'll go to the movies, which is still lonely, but I'll go to eat. I'll get my feet done.
Sit at the bar. Oh, you love a pedicure. You smart man. Smart man.
Yeah, I do. I sit at the bar. I don't drink, but I have a restaurant I go to in the morning, and I've gone there so long they all know me. I actually got our cat from one of the servers.
Nice.
So I go there twice a week, and I talk to the staff, and they know me, and I eat the same thing. So I do that not to be lonely. That is a hard one because I fight with that a lot because I can't really take care of it all the time. I might play video games, or stuff like that.
And video games nowadays so different. You can talk to people.
Oh, I don't know. Oh no, video games is just me. No,
just you. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get yelled at by a 12-year-old. I don't.
Too funny. What is something you're ridiculously good at?
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Like caregiving wise?
That doesn't have to be. I mean, I think the point is like sometimes we just don't, we should on ourselves, like with the things we're not doing enough of or not, but there are things that you're doing well and that you're good at.
Well, I'll stick with caregiving. I think I'm really good at motivating her to get up, which I could never do when she was normal. So
what's your trick?
I tell her she has to. I mean, you just kind of got to work with her. I just made a video of my day. Like I do it slowly. I don't wake her all up at once. I turn the TV on. I let her know that it's coming, so stuff like that. Piece at a time. So
I love that. Little bits at a time.
Yeah.
So what's one thing that you did or are going to do just for yourself today?
Oh, today is a rough day because I don't think I'll get much. To go to the store and just look around. So I'll probably do that. That's a weird. The weird things you develop to deal with this is.
Listen, I mean, grocery shopping and all of that. Yeah, it's
the weird pleasures you take and stuff like that now.
Yes, the little things that expression means a lot. So I tell people, first of all, anything else you want to add that like, oh my gosh, we can't leave this, Elizabeth, until we say this, or something you just want to share with caregivers, and then how do people follow you?
No, I mean, it's gonna, what I can say is I know there's all these networks and everyone has a support team, but just always be ready to be added on your own at any moment. I mean, it's not going to last forever. Someone will rotate back in, but you have to be prepared for the lonely stretches, as I like to call it. And it's just part of it. That's the thing I've had the most trouble dealing with because sometimes they feel like an eternity, but it's just part of caregiving. Especially when it's just you and your spouse, that there's not always going to be somebody to rotate out and just find some way to stay mentally focused and try to take care of yourself somewhere in there. So that makes sense.
A lot. I mean, well, I think a lot of what you said too is just accepting and anticipating.
Yeah.
That is part of the job, and that I think sometimes caregiving is like it's all bad, but we're not saying that either. It's like there are some joys and some happy moments in caregiving, but it's not something that people, like I said, have on their bucket list.
No, it's one of those things where I fell back and my wife and I fell back. I fell in love with taking care of my wife and rediscovering what we had and the softness of her and the sweet woman that she is. And it's horrible that it happened this way, but rediscovering that and in this enjoying that aspect of being there for my wife. And that's one of the big things that you have to learn to accept. Yeah. So,
well, I'm grateful for you and for sharing and being transparent about this. And if people want to stay in touch with you, best places on TikTok. What's your handle there?
It's at Joseph M. Vasquez 44.
Yes.
Yeah. And then on Facebook, you just look up my name, and then Facebook is private, but if you friend me and you try to find a way for me to know how you did it, I'll friend you. But my albums are public. Laura's Journey's public, and then the dogs and cat are public. But Laura's Journey, like if you want to look in my whole journey through the last 2 years, is on there. So amazing journal for you, and to see to look back for you to see what you've been through and how resilient you are. And that's definitely what I would want you to take. I'm taking from this conversation is like
Joe shows up, he's committed, and he is resilient. And yes, it's hard, but he's figuring it out day by day.
I can't, if you like, I got to see her in a home and I hated it. And I didn't ever want her to go back to that again. So you just got that's my one fight, is to keep her out and keep her home. So
for as long as you can. I mean,
we
don't have the crystal ball again. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much Joe for sharing today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us today on the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast. As always, show notes that accompany today's episode can be found on my website, happyhealthycaregiver.com. Just look under the podcast menu for today's episode image, and that will take you to the page with the links and information we spoke about today. You'll also find other resources on the website, along with links to purchase the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal. When you purchase from my website, you'll get a signed copy, and for a limited time, free shipping. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider subscribing to the show on your podcast platform. It really helps other family caregivers find the podcast, and you'll automatically receive our bi-weekly shows in your podcast listening queue. Let's stay connected. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Happy Healthy Caregiver. And until we meet again,